Hello, guys, and welcome. We're here on 16.4 and going to go over some of the people who are involved in the both sides, the Axis powers, which of course are the bad guys, and we see the three Axis powers over here with Germany and of course their leader Adolf Hitler, Italy, their leader Benito Mussolini, and Japan. And it's hard to say because, of course, they were ultimately led by the Emperor of Japan, but there was Hideki Tojo, who was someone that we'll see a little bit later on, sort of mastermind of Pearl Harbor and whatnot. So the Axis powers, those are the bad guys: Germany, Italy, Japan. We go over to the allies, and who's in the allies depends on like what you really consider. Obviously, the United States, which comes in later in the war, much later in the war, in fact, after Pearl Harbor, and of course the leader was Roosevelt for most of the time. This is Franklin Roosevelt. Of course, he dies towards the very end of the war, and Harry Truman comes in. Then from the UK, we have Winston Churchill. And from the Soviet Union, we have Joseph Stalin. Now, France, this is really the flag of free France. And there were different types of France. Free France, of course, were people that were not under control of Nazis, many people that had escaped. And then, of course, there was Nazi occupied France. And it does change later to Vichy France and other, but we don't need to worry about that. For the most part, we just need to know that the Allies were United States, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union. The United States came in a little bit later. Lend-Lease Act. So this is still before the United States is involved directly in the war. And the idea behind this is that we're going to try to pretend that we're still neutral because we're not giving anything to anybody. All we're doing is lending or leasing arms to any nations whose defense was vital to the United States. And so you can see the Soviet Union. This is Taiwan, or the Chinese nationalist flag, which later on goes to Taiwan, of course, and the Brits. These are the people that needed the help, and we felt that we could make the public, at least appear to the public, that we weren't actively involved in the war, but we were still helping our allies, even though technically they weren't our allies yet. But clearly, we could see the kind of world it would be if Japan, Germany, and Italy were going to win, if they were to win, and that was not a world that anyone wanted, certainly. The Atlantic Charter. This, once the United States decided eventually, obviously to get involved in the war, and that was obviously after Pearl Harbor, it was an idea of a plan, rather, of British and Americans for what are we going to do for fighting World War II. Now, not like obviously, hey, we're going to win, not that, but what was the strategy? What sort of goals? And not just okay, we're going to defeat the battle here, 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 but what would the world look like afterwards? What was the point of fighting this war in the first place? And obviously, besides to win, but like, what do we want after the war? How should society look after the war? And what are we fighting the war for? Deki Tojo. This, of course, was the prime minister of Japan during World War II. Apparently, one of the masterminds in creating the plan for Pearl Harbor, and so really very much responsible for much of the involvement of Japan. Now, remember, a lot of people in the Japanese military thought it was a bad idea to attack the United States, and there's no way that Japan could win. But others, such as Tojo, decided that no, actually, we can win, and here's how we're going to do it. Obviously, that plan did not work out in Japan's favor. All right, that's it. Thank you very much.